Good afternoon and welcome to the 198th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. No guest today. It's just going to be focused on news and talk about the Super Bowl, what Georgia products are going to be appearing in the game. Got some big news with some of the high school football games and showcases and big cross-state matchups that just got announced. I'll talk about those, what to look forward in those, and then I'm going to go over the region basketball tournaments, update you on what has happened, and then look ahead a little bit on which regions are going to be squaring off in the playoffs in the first round. I think that's a big thing to be watching for. But let's go ahead and get started with the Super Bowl. So a great article on the AJC that points out there's going to be 8 former Georgia high school football players appearing in this game. Over the last 10 Super Bowls, the average has been 7, so right on par for this one. But I think the most interesting aspect is 2 Sprayberry guys. You have Trey Sermon on the Eagles, played at Sprayberry, then Ohio State, and then Jarek McKinnon, Sprayberry, and then Georgia Southern. So that's really exciting for the Sprayberry program to have 2 players represented, one on each roster. They talked to Coach Billy Shackelford about it. His quote was, "This is very cool. I'm a proud papa. To see them make it to the pinnacle game is really something. It doesn't get any bigger than the Super Bowl." Can't argue that. And honestly, I think this is a great matchup in terms of Super Bowls. Both teams are 14-3. The Eagles are an absolute juggernaut, and the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. So we will see. The other players from Georgia, guy I want to highlight is Harrison Butker, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker from Westminster, was also outstanding at Georgia Tech. He's had a great NFL career and probably had the most adversity he's faced this season. He was dealing with the early injury, had a new holder. Some people were saying that might have contributed to some of the inaccuracies. And then he had a spell where he was missing a lot of PATs and field goals. And he has come on clutch, though. He still has the big leg. I think his kick in the AFC Championship against the Bengals was huge for him to kind of get that confidence back heading into this massive spotlight. The only other player for the Eagles, though, that's from Georgia, they have 2. Kansas City has 6, is Darius Slay from Brunswick and Mississippi State. He will be playing in the secondary. He had 3 tackles in the most recent win that the Eagles had over the 49ers. And then let's go to the Chiefs again. On the offensive line, Orlando Brown from Peachtree Ridge in Oklahoma. So there's also that Oklahoma aspect in this matchup, just with Jalen Hurts and then Orlando Brown on the Chiefs. And this is a big game for Orlando Brown in terms of his future career. He's in that sweet spot where he's going to get a new contract after this season. He's only 26 years old, Pro Bowl caliber. We know the size with him. I think he's 6'8", 340, one of the biggest kids I've ever seen compete at the high school level, and he's obviously matured in the years since. Reminds me of Daniel Calhoun, the Centennial offensive tackle, with just that massive frame where he really is the biggest guy in the state. I said before this season he rejected a $139 million contract that would have had a $30 million signing bonus. That was on July 15th. So he played under a $16.6 million franchise tag this season. And so he would get a massive boost if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and a major contract. So a lot at stake for a really bright 26-year-old starting offensive tackle with Orlando Brown. You also have Malik Herron, an outstanding player from Mary Persons. He's on the Chiefs. defensive stud. He, of course, played at Georgia. And then McCole Hardman, he's going to be on IR. I do not think he's going to play in that one, but we all know how great he was at Elbert County back in the day. I already mentioned Jerick McKinnon. We'll see what we see from him in the game. And then the last player for the Chiefs is Jalen Watson from Laney, from Washington State, a guy that has really come up and made some big plays. So be sure to watch for those names. Obviously, the Super Bowl is a big deal, but just to have some Georgia representation in there is always exciting. See if there's any other comments. Yeah, so Shackelford talked specifically about Jerick McKinnon. So he was an undersized quarterback at Sprayberry. Didn't get any major Division I offers. Only 5'9", but obviously at the quarterback role, he showed his unbelievable running ability. And his quote, he goes, "Trey McKinnon was a physical specimen. He had all the intangibles, and he played with a chip on his shoulder. He always wanted to prove he was good enough to play with the big dogs." And sorry, that was Jerick, not Trey Sermon. And then he was also asked who he's going to be pulling for. He took a neutral approach, not surprised. Because somebody asked me who I'm going to be rooting for with guys on both teams. That's really tough. A perfect ending would be a tie and co-players of the game, but the fact that they're in the Super Bowl, I'm absolutely proud of both of them. So that would be really exciting. Right now, it looks like the Eagles are favored by 1.5 points. It's funny, I heard that this is the most bet on game in history at this point, or it's going to be. It's just really interesting how far we've come. I remember in 2010 or 2011, it was when I was done playing college football. I wasn't stupid enough to bet on a game while I was on a team, but I thought South Carolina was going to beat Georgia. I went to the Bahamas, put down $100. I don't suggest doing that, but I won my bet. And so I was like, I knew it. That was a great bet. And I had all these counter signalers on social media. Don't promote gambling and sports betting. I've not bet on a game since, and now everyone is. So I just think it's funny that people were like, Craig, don't bet on sports. It's so bad. Literally everyone does it now. Anyway, I won't name names, but I was just like, seriously? Can't bet on one game ever without getting morally lectured. Anyway, the other big news I want to talk about, there are some massive cross-state showcases that have been announced. Obviously, the Corky Kell, that's our event that's going to be outstanding. I will talk about that schedule real quick. But it's a big-time matchup. So Buford is scheduled to play St. Francis Academy. They were founded in 1828. They're the oldest historically black Catholic high school in the country. They've only lost 3 games since 2017 to outstanding programs, Mater Dei of California, St. Thomas Aquinas of Florida, and IMG Academy of Florida. And then looks like they didn't play the 2020 season, but yeah, only 3 losses since 2017. Said the players on the 2022 St. Francis team had more than 700 Division I scholarship offers, and their best returning player is going to be Michael Van Buren, a top 10 quarterback nationally. So a big test for Buford to represent against one of the country's best teams. That game is going to be, let's see what day it is. All right, it's going to be broadcasted on Flow Sports Football, and yeah, that will be their season opener, August 18th. So be looking for that. Big test for Buford as they try to get back to their championship wins after their 3-year streak was snapped this past season by Walton. Another big matchup is a doubleheader, and we saw some more of these type events spring up. I think Fayette County had a great inaugural event last year with their top programs. I think Sandy Creek was in there, Stars Mill, Whitewater, Fayette County. It was a huge success, had a ton of support from local businesses and the school districts. But this one's going to be a doubleheader at Colquitt County, August 19th. I would assume that's a Saturday, since Buford's going to be playing on the 18th. But that's going to be Lowndes High School against North Carolina's Christ School, and then Colquitt County is going to play Dutch Fork, South Carolina's reigning Class 5A state championship. That one's going to be called the Georgia Carolinas Challenge. So another cool new event right there. This matchup I'm really excited for. Valdosta and Massillon of Ohio. I know Graham has heard of Massillon. And what's interesting about this one, in terms of the argument for the best high school program in the country, Valdosta is number 1 in all-time wins, and Massillon is number 3. There's a great documentary. It's only 43 minutes long. It came out in 2001. It's called Go Tigers. It got rave reviews just on how important football is to the Massillon community. I highly suggest watching it. It's outstanding. You just see pretty much everything we love about high school football. And I won't spoil anything, but they're getting ready for the biggest game of the season, the state championship, and their quarterback cuts up his hand in woodworking class and has to start the game with all these stitches. So I know just coaches are constantly dealing with things like that, the unexpected curveballs that get thrown, and it was just a really great look at one of the most passionate communities for high school football in the country. So I think that's a great matchup. It will probably be the first time they've ever played, and just two storied programs. And then Valdosta, they were really good last year. I think at one point I got confused from a previous year. I said that their offense struggled last year, but that wasn't really the case. So their offense was good. I think it was just them running into that outstanding competition in region play that ultimately kind of kept them from having that 10-11 win season, but they were really talented. Valdosta is going to be an outstanding program next season for sure. So cool matchup right there. Massillon of Ohio and Valdosta. That one's going to be in Ohio at Massillon's famous Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, and it's part of a 4-game event. And that will also be on August 18th, same day as the Buford game. Two other great programs from Georgia that are going to be playing out-of-state big-time matchups, Milton and Creekside. This is going to be the second week of the season, and they are in negotiations. That's going to be part of the Freedom Bowl, I believe. And, yeah, that might be a 2-week deal where one is played week 1, one's played week 2, but it's going to be Milton against Western High of Davie, Florida, and then I believe the other matchup might be Creekside against East St. Louis, and that's going to be later in the season. And it looks like Christopher Columbus, they did play Benedictine this last year. They are an outstanding team, and it looks like they're trying to play possibly Buford later on. So Freedom Bowl, they're still ironing that out. So yeah, that's the big news with those events. I do want to go over the Corky Kell schedule real quick just to get excited about that. We had a great lineup last year. I thought some of the most exciting games we've ever had, including the North Atlanta North Forsyth game was just outstanding. Thought that one really set the tone. But we'll be at Kell High School to start things off Wednesday, August 16th. Johns Creek against North Atlanta. That'll be a big game. North Atlanta had probably the best season in school history last year. Lost a couple tough games, but those were two outstanding teams, and they really, I think, set that new standard for themselves where they really come out and are ready every single week. Had a great game plan, great leadership last year, and a lot of guys got in the action. Coach All's doing a great job there. And we'll see what Johns Creek did. They were super young last year. See how they bounce back. And then Parkview at Kell.
New head coach, Johns Creek.
New head coach at Johns Creek. Okay, Drew Connell did step down. Let me see if I have that. Yeah, that must have happened last week.
30th, yeah. And then they just got a new head coach, February 8th.
30th. So Najee is on top of it. So, yeah, Johns Creek will be debuting a new head coach. Jim Roll.
Yeah. R-O-W-E-L-L.
R-O-W-E-L-L. So I'll look into that. So Johns Creek's going to be turning the page. Just 1 year with Coach Connell. It was a tough season. We'll see how they take advantage of that matchup to try to build things going into the season. Parkview and Kell, that's going to be the nightcap. Another interesting situation right there. Parkview's going to have their new head coach after Coach Godfrey stepped down. And I think Kell is going to be outstanding next season. Bryce Clavin at quarterback, Peyton Zachary at receiver. Will be replacing, what's the defensive lineman? Baker?
Joshua Barker.
Oh, Joshua Barker. He was a huge staple for them on the defensive line. But I think Kell's going to be a really exciting team to watch next year with their firepower offensively. They had a pretty solid year with Coach May that first year, and I just think that program has it going on, not just in football, basketball, outstanding. They have a chance to sweep this year. So then day 2 of the Corky Kell is going to be back at West Forsyth High School. It's been a great host site for our Thursday games. Got a big matchup with Archer and North Forsyth. Archer had a new coach last year. Came on late in the season, got some much-needed wins to get things going back in the right direction. And then North Forsyth, they're going to be replacing a lot of guys. I think they had, Logan Curry, Aiden Ruck, they were tied in. The quarterback. They had 9 guys, I think, sign to play at the next level. So a big test for them against Archer. I think that will be a competitive game. Great opportunity for the new leaders of both those teams to come out and start off strong. And then we're going to have Cherokee against West Forsyth in the nightcap. So it'll be great to have Cherokee back in the Corky Kell with Coach Shaw. West Forsyth, great program. They're going to have to move on from Peyton Straco. He's been their workhorse back all those years. And Ryder Stewart. So he will be the lead back, Ryder Stewart. We'll see how West Forsyth's able to balance that offense. They've been great running the ball against a Cherokee team that's trying to get back into the playoffs and get back to that level. They were super young last year. I know Coach Shaw has them working tremendously hard to get ready, get the Warriors on track. So on Friday, we're going to be back at Rome's Barron Stadium for a triple header, and great matchups right here. It's going to be 3 rematches from last year. Mount Pisgah against Fellowship Christian. That's the 231, great private school matchup right there. Mount Pisgah was able to steal the win last year. Their quarterback was outstanding. Fellowship's going to have a new head coach after Coach McFarland left for Georgia Tech. Cass and Kennesaw Mountain. Really like this matchup. Cass had some big wins last year, one of their best seasons ever, and their region was just tremendous with Hiram, Cartersville, Calhoun, and I think Allatoona was in that one too. So Cass has a big region to get prepared for. Kennesaw Mountain, they started off the year really hot and kind of fell off the rails last year, maybe with some injuries, but they're going to try to get back into that conversation of being a top 10 team. A great rematch from a really close game this past year where I think Kennesaw Mountain got like a 1-point win, and then a rematch at 8:30 between Creekside and Rome. That is going to be really good. Creekside came out. I think they struggled offensively in that game. Rome got the win. Is that right?
Yeah, defensive battle, 16-6 was the score.
16-6 was the final in that one. Rome's got a ton of talent coming back. They got Reese Fountain at quarterback. He's trying to have a big finale to his outstanding varsity career. We know what Creekside's all about. They're going to come out and try to make a statement and avenge last year's loss. Then on Saturday, I really like that we've gone from the 5 games to 4 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I thought 5 was just insane. Things would get backed up, and that's just a lot going on. But just 4 games all day on Saturday. It's going to start with Norcross and Marietta. That'll be a big one. Marietta started slow last year, but I just thought it was interesting the way they played. We typically think of Marietta as a really pass-heavy attack, but last year they were able to run the ball really well. That was their formula against Newton in the playoffs. I thought Coach Morgan did a good job considering some of the holes they had and just the challenging schedule they had ahead of them to build things and make a little run in the playoffs. Norcross, tremendous athleticism. They're looking to make a deep run. And then we're going to have Brookwood and McEachern at 1 o'clock. The 2 teams that have appeared in every single Corky Cal playing. That will be a big matchup. We'll see how Brookwood looks post Dylan Lonergan. He's going to Alabama. And then McEachern, they have a new head coach after Coach Franklin Stevens left and went to his alma mater at Burke County. And McEachern was really good last year. Their quarterback got injured. They had to start a freshman. That really slowed them down a little bit in the region play, but we know how talent-heavy both those programs are. We'll see who can come out, get a win to build that positive momentum. 4 o'clock, the defending state champions, Mill Creek against North Gwinnett. That will be a great game as well. North Gwinnett's going to have Coach Eric Godfrey at the helm coming over from Parkview. He'll be making his debut, and we'll see what Mill Creek looks like week 1. I expect them. Shane Throgmartin at quarterback. He's been King Joseph Edwards coming over from Buford. You have Trajan Draco, a really outstanding playmaker. Cam Robinson, the running back that really that was his first season taking carries like that, and I thought he developed into a outstanding downfield runner. And then we know Coach Lovelady is just great with the schemes, whether it's how his lines play on both sides of the ball. The special teams are outstanding. So I think that's a great matchup, Mill Creek and North Gwinnett. North Gwinnett's going to know that's going to be a really tough opener for them. And then the Saturday finale is just going to be really interesting. Grayson against Walton. Grayson absolutely dominated Marietta last year, but Walton, under Coach Bruner, they've only lost once in the Corky Cal. That was last year, pretty much on the last minute of the game, where Hecklinski was outstanding, threw for, I think, 500 yards, 426. And I just think Walton is a very dangerous team returning this year. Hecklinski, that was his first year as the full-time starter this past season, had probably the biggest win of the year against Buford. And I just think heading into his senior season, he's already locked in for Wake Forest. He's not worried about that. He's just going to go out and try to play outstanding football. And I know Coach Bruner is going to have them working really hard, and they know what their, I wouldn't necessarily say weaknesses are, but they were thin in some positions last year where they lacked depth. I think if they work on solidifying that and coming out, getting the guys that need that varsity experience, it's going to be a big game against Grayson, but I also think Grayson also has some questions to answer just with a new head coach. Some of their players leaving, JoJo Stone, their top receiver, he's now at Hughes. We will see. I just think that's a tough matchup. I think Walton might make a statement in that one. But, yeah, so that's the Corky Kell right there. And we know we'll be here before we know it. But that's some big-time matchups for the state of Georgia to open up next season. I think it's going to be fantastic. But let's go ahead and take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau.
This remains the same today. We've grown to protect all Georgia. Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So real quick, some more head coaching news. Whitfield Academy, they hired their new head coach. It's going to be Savannah Christian's former defensive coordinator, Robert Walsh. He was also Savannah Christian's boys basketball coach. It says through the 2022 season, so I don't know if that's through this current season. Sometimes they list it as 2022/2023, but anyway, that's going to be Robert Walsh taking over for Coleman Joyner, and it says they have not made it past the second round in the school's 21-year history, but they have been a consistent playoff team, so we'll see what Coach Walsh can do at his new position. I think that probably takes us, looks like there were 68 openings. I mean, I think we're probably 70% full at this point. But, yeah, we'll have those updated. There were some spring sports that got underway this week. Seth Ellerby has been updating the scoreboard, and he is on a mission. We had a meeting on Wednesday, and he was like, I'm going to do scores every single night. And he knew, because normally it's like you pick what the heaviest days are, where it's like baseball might play 200 games on a Tuesday and only 30 on a Wednesday. But Seth is just the scoreboard king, and he's just going to update it. So you can always go to scoreatl.com. You can go to the AJC where you'll find his nightly post for each day. And we had some interesting results in baseball last night. We had, let's see, Kell 9-0 win over Dunwoody. Dunwoody's always a great baseball team. You had Cherokee. They made a huge run last year, and they beat Creekview 6-3. I think Creekview either lost to Pope or forgot who the 5A champ was, but they were definitely a finalist last year. And then Cairo beat Thomas County Central 2-1. Burke County had a 5-4 win over Screven County. You can go check out all those scores, as I mentioned. So, yeah, baseball's underway. Got lacrosse really starting next week, I think, is when the bulk of it is going to go down. And then we have soccer as well. So let's go into these region tournaments real quick and talk about that. So once the playoffs get here, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to be Region 1 against Region 2, 3 against 4, 5 against 6, and Region 7 against 8 in that first round. So I'll talk about with that scenario, which ones are going to be the biggest first round test. But in Region 1, this is on the boys' side. That will get underway on Monday. Valdosta has the number 1 seed for the boys and the girls. Hold up. Oh, no, I just exit out. One sec. And so as the number 1 seed, they will wait to play the winner of the 5 and the 4. It's just a 5-team region. And then the championships will be held on Thursday at Valdosta. Region 2, that is still to be determined. So obviously Region 1 and Region 2 are going to play in the first round, but you have Pebblebrook, Westlake, Carrollton, Campbell, and East Coweta. On the boys' side, I think Carrollton has the ability to potentially get that home court. They've had a solid run. They're 18-6. Westlake 14-10, and then Pebblebrook is the front runner at this point. They're 6-1 in the region. But once those seeds are set, it's going to take place on Monday with the 4 and the 5 seed. That will probably be Campbell against East Coweta on the boys, and then Pebblebrook will play the winner, and we'll see who the 2 and 3 seed are, whether that's Carrollton or Westlake. But I think Carrollton and Westlake will be squaring off. That championship will be crowned on Friday. Region 3, that one is also still being flushed out in terms of the seeding. McEachern is the top one, though. They're 7-0. This is on the boys' side. Hillgrove 5-2, and then you have Harrison, Marietta, and North Paulding all with 2 wins in the region. And so you will have McEachern waiting to play the winner of the 4 and the 5. And then Hillgrove will play the number 3 seed. So I think they're just determining who's going to be the 3, 4, and 5. But McEachern is the top seed. Hillgrove is the top seed. They automatically advance, but they'll have to win that to secure home court. That's going to be on Friday. And so McEachern and Hillgrove, they are going to be matched up with Region 4 in the first round. Region 4 is going to get started on Tuesday. It's going to be South Gwinnett versus Brookwood, and then Archer versus Parkview. And then they will play the second round on Wednesday, crown it on Friday. The other obvious big region matchup is going to be 7 versus 8. And that on the boys' side right now, Norcross is the number 1 seed. Peachtree Ridge earned the number 2. And I don't have the girls. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, same thing with the girls. Norcross number 1, Peachtree Ridge number 2. And that championship will be held on Wednesday, so that will be pretty early. It actually gets started tonight. On the boys, it's going to be Duluth and Discovery. That's number 6 and number 7. The winner will take on North Gwinnett on Saturday. And on the girls' side, North Gwinnett will take on the winner of Meadow Creek and Berkmar. And Region 8 on the boys' side, Mill Creek is the number 1 seed. They've had some big wins to earn that in the region, including wins over Buford, who's the number 2 seed. And they'll be continuing with Collins Hill, Central Gwinnett, Mountain View, and Decula. In 6A, I think 6A, that's really got to be talked about, just how deep the girls' side is, and all focus is going to be on Region 3. we already had Mundy's Mill and Murrow play on Tuesday, but then on Saturday you're going to have Rockdale County, Woodward Academy, and Forest Park all in action, and then the number 1 seed in that region is Lovejoy. So I think all 4 of those teams are ranked at this point, and those will be held on Tuesday when we see those 4 powerhouses playing for a spot in the region championship, which will be held next Friday. Hughes, they earned the top seed for the girls, and then the boys are number 2 with Alexander as the number 1. I think Alexander's currently ranked number 1 in 6A, and then they're waiting for their next game on Thursday, and so the only potential time Hughes and Alexander would play is if they both win. They would play in the championship for the top seed. Let's see, in 5A, Region 6 is really deep. That's going to be with, you have Kell, you have Cambridge, Northview, Centennial, North Springs, but Kell, that is their region to win on boys and girls. They are the top seed. And both will play on Thursday. So we'll have 3 matchups on Monday to with the 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, and then the winner of the 4 versus 5 will play Kell in both situations. In 4A, on the girls' side, let's see. I think Hardaway is a team that's been quiet in terms of the praise they've been getting, but they're undefeated in Region 1. They're a top 10 team. I think they have a chance to come out of this earning that top seed, and then they would match up with Region 2, which could house 2 of the most likely contenders to make a run to the state title with Griffin and Baldwin. But if Hardaway can get the number 1 seed, they would not have to worry about matching up with either of those until at least the semifinals. So big chance for Hardaway to position themselves well in this 4A playoff bracket. Yeah, and avoid Griffin and Baldwin. And then let's see I think it's Region 5. Okay, I'll have to update that one, but that's a stacked region as well with Holy Innocents and Westminster. Said on Wednesday, I think Holy Innocents is probably the hottest team in 4A right now. They've won 10 straight. Let's see real quick when they play next. 12 straight at this point. On Tuesday, they won 78-27. They'll play Southwest DeKalb tonight. So that region will get underway. And they previously beat Southwest DeKalb, who is solid. They got a 15-9 record, but they beat them 77-52 back on January 16th. So I just really like the way Holy Innocents has been playing. And they've been definitely battle-tested. They dropped a game to Wesleyan early on, Galloway, and Westminster, but they obviously avenged that one and have been rolling since. Let me look at Luella real quick. So in my opinion, I think the 4A girls, it's going to be, can Luella make it back to the state championship game? They lost in a heartbreaker last year, game they really easily could have won. It was one of the toughest losses ever, and you can't really fault yourself after it. Marist used a half-court shot at the buzzer after Luella had the lead. They got a turnover, threw up the prayer, went in, forced overtime, and then hit another buzzer beater. So, I mean, they played well in the game. It's just one of those situations where things like that just happen. And so they've just been on a mission this year to really make a statement every game. So with that going for them and that edge, I would put Luella as my favorite to make it there. But I just think you have the newcomers with Holy Innocents that have just consistently made runs to the state championship and other classifications over and over again. That's just a new test. And they obviously haven't played each other this year. But, I mean, Luella's defense has been tremendous. They won their last one, 70-36 over Pace Academy. They beat Lovett 85-13. Lovett's a good team. Beat Hampton 89-15 at Mount Zion 51-9, and that was after they beat them 78-0. So Luella's not playing around, and Holy Innocents has overcome a rough start by just avenging wins in big ways. You have Baldwin, who, same sort of deal. They lost to Griffin early and then just really beat them significantly in their last game. And Baldwin's a team that's made runs before. So I think the 4A girls bracket is definitely, I'd say, my favorite in terms of where the action's going to be. On the boys' side, I like 7A, and then I also like 6A on the girls. But we will see. We'll have all those updated, though, at scoreatl.com and the AJC. You can check it out right there, and we'll have the scores as well. But I also mentioned I was going to give my take on my high school football rankings, because we'll be doing those probably around April is usually when we try to get them out. So here's who I think I'm considering in each classification. Yep. All right. So my top teams in 7A, and this is tough. I'm going to just do my top 5, no particular order. Thinking 7A, Mill Creek, Buford, Carrollton, Colquitt, Walton. And the team that I would potentially consider in that conversation is Milton. Never count them out, but those are my absolute locks. I need to look into North Cobb, need to look into Lambert. I was not very kind to Grayson last year. I dropped them out of the poll multiple times. But obviously they were really solid last year. It's just I got to wait and see kind of who sticks around on the roster, what the coaching staff looks like, and what they've got going on. In 6A, no questions, Hughes is going to be my number 1 team. Not even close. Till anyone can compete with them. But, gosh, there's some other contenders. So, Hughes, Houston County. I like Lee County for sure. Rome, and Roswell. I think Gainesville might take a slight step back. You lose Darius Cannon, Baxter Wright. That's a big part of your offensive attack. And I know they were just a great team last year. They figured it out. They're going to be good again. I just think 6A is really, really strong. So, and I shouldn't count out Woodward Academy either. They've been really good. But those are absolute locks. Hughes is a lock. Roswell's a lock. Woodward, Houston County, Lee County, and Rome. Total locks. In 5A, Creekside, Cartersville. Ooh, I'm gonna surprise myself on this one. Creekside, Ware County, Kell, Coffee, and Mays. I think Mays is going to be top 5 next year. They are going to be really good. I think they'll be a tough matchup as well. And I really like the way they started their season last year. That's been the thing that in recent years they've had these slow starts going 1-4. That wasn't the case last year. They came out, played outstanding week 1, and only got better. Became a really dangerous team that ultimately ended up falling to Ware County, the eventual state champs. But I just thought they were really impressive last year. The Jalewis Solomon back at quarterback, tons of playmakers, and Coach Slayton's doing a great job. 3A, Cedar Grove. Oh yeah, 4A, I skipped it. Ooh, 4A. Burke County. I like Franklin Stevens. I think they're going to be next level next year. Ooh, this is tough. I think Cedartown loses a ton. I think North Oconee loses a ton. All right, I'm going to go my 5 locks in 4A. Let's see, Burke County, Whitewater, Bainbridge, Stockbridge, Benedictine. That's going to be a tough pull to do for sure, because I think LaGrange was really making strides last year. I want to see what Troop looks like without Teo Todd. Or Teo Todd's coming back, right? Okay, so yeah, never mind. Troop's in that. Teo Todd is back. Yeah, I like Troop in that one. All right, 3A. Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Stevens County, Carver, Columbus, and Peach County. Watch out for Peach County. No. Not yet. Not yet. I think that was too tough for them. It's like they had a great year last year, but going from the Class A private to 3A, that's a tough jump, and thought they played really well against everyone. But once you hit the top brass of 3A and the Cedar Grove, yeah, you got shut out in that game. So I think 3A is really tough. I mean, Calvary Day is going to be great again. They're outstanding, but until they can put up points against the likes of Cedar Grove, it's going to be too tough. 2A, man, what's Thompson going to look like this year after making that incredible run? They lose a lot, but I like 2A is wide open, I'm telling you. Because I think South Atlanta is going to have to replace a ton. All right, I like Fitzgerald, Pierce County, Callaway, Appling County, I guess we'll put Thompson in there. So yeah, Thompson, Fitzgerald, Appling, Pierce, and Callaway. We'll see what Rockmart can do too. I think their run to the quarters last year was big. Class A Division I, Prince Avenue Christian, Irwin County, Brooks County, I'm thinking about it. Bleckley County, Swainsboro. We'll see. And then Class A Division II, I think Schley County, said it right, Clinch County, Lincoln County, Charlton County, Bowden. for sure. But yeah, we'll have those out, and we're gonna look into it. We'll split it up. I'm gonna do 7A through 4A. Seth's gonna do 3A and down. But really, I mean, I just wanted to point out in 7A, I think we're looking at a pretty big opportunity for Walton this next season. And have they had bad games in recent years where they really just get exposed in certain areas? Absolutely. North Cobb's exposed them. Milton's exposed them. And consistently. But I still think that the way that offense is going to look next year, it's going to be next level in terms of being a dangerous four-down team. It's like they're going to have guys on the offensive line. They're morphing into that Mill Creek teams. They're going to take defensive players, put them in on offense in key situations. And then you have Hecklinski that can play at a tempo that's really hard to stop, and especially when he sees the field like he does, is able to improvise. And then they did it last year without any big five-star receivers or even four-stars. I mean, Aiden Jackson, he's playing defense at Georgia Southern next year. He stepped in offensively, made the best catch of the year against Buford, not even an offensive guy. And so really with Walton, their receivers are good at just getting open. They don't have this absolute dedication to running routes exactly how you practice them. It's like, no, if the defender's in that curl spot, Jeremy Hecklinski's good enough to recognize that, and you can kind of cut the route short if you need to. So I just think offensively they're in store for a big season. I think Hecklinski's going to put up insane numbers, and that's all I want to say. I think Walton is a top 5 team for sure, and what they did last year was really impressive. And then Buford, what are they going to look like this year? How good's Carrollton going to be? Colquitt County came really close this last year. And then how will Milton look? They do have to replace some people, but I think they're going to go for an 8th straight region championship this year. Watch out for them. And then what about Lambert? I thought Lambert had a pretty magical regular season, but then just ran out of gas. And then we'll see what North Cobb looks like. I thought, gosh, their replacement for Malachi Singleton came in and played pretty well, but then what was that? Milton that absolutely dominated them? North Cobb? Yeah. Milton came out and just exploded on them, so it's going to be interesting. We'll track all the movements. I think we are going to see more transfers. It's just a product of all these coaching changes. Yes, even at the high school level, a lot of times players will make a move that fits their aspirations for the next level better. So we'll see, but I'm excited about that, and we have a great weekend to look forward to with the region tournament. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Go to the Score Atlanta YouTube page. Check out Najee's show from yesterday, Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. It was outstanding, had tons of highlights, great guest, great analysis, and film breakdowns. And there's much more content there. But thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend, and go Chiefs.